Now we move on to the second fairy tale character on the channel, and that is Lucy. Despite showing off just how cracked out Urza is, you'd be kinda surprised to hear that Lucy is the better one in this collab. You don't believe me? I'm here to show off why that is, and I'll even show you guys how to build her. For Lucy's talent, it boosts her int. When she and her spirit use an AoE, they can target from anywhere on the skill range, and when it deals damage, they apply star. In battle, they apply moon. Enemies who have both of it, when fighting them, both Lucy and the spirit stats increase. What star does is that both can target the enemy within 6 blocks. Moon deals fixed damage to enemies within 1 ring, wherein which they both last 2 turns. For star level recommendations, I will say at least 4 stars. 4 stars is like the stopping point in my opinion. However, if you're just mainly PvE focused, then I would say 3 stars is fine if you really need to prioritize other characters. So I will say that the skill range being anywhere whenever she uses AoE is kind of huge, especially since Lucy needs to interact with things in order to get things started for her. And you must be wondering what these spirits are all about. What the heck are they? Well, if you go ahead and check her skills and look at her unique 1C, it will answer your question. Using this summons a spirit, and the cooldown will be dependent on whichever that you chose, and a max of 1 can exist at the same time. You can have 2 of these summons, while the other one, Aquarius, is only a transformation. Disregard what you see right here, Aquarius is only a transformation. That one boosts her crit by 100% and does more damage to enemies in water, while having an AoE skill on top of that as well. Loki is a single target focus, and Ares is AoE focus. Again, after using one of these, it does switch to another skill, will let her act again, but having this allows her to be an fantastic mixed attacker, pulling off some crazy combos alongside her spirits. That is mainly what her gameplay is going to be all about, and I will provide more information on this during her showcase, so I do really recommend watching that to understand Lucy a lot more. For the class master stones, what I usually like to do is have HP and int all across the board. Then for the armor, I do defense, headwear, magic defense, then the last 2 skill. However, for the accessory, you can do defense instead. For the arena stones, I do really recommend having an offensive set. However, I have another set if you so wish for it, if that's to your liking. So that'll have HP, int, defense, magic defense, or crit res, and then crit damage. One of her best soldiers include Sky Archer. These guys give flying movement, so no trouble moving around places. While the Expedition are the strongest to deal with flyers, plus they can tank a bit better on certain maps with grass. Then you have Crystal Warlock, which is going to be her best at surviving, especially if you do plan on being so AoE focused with her. You're not going to really rely on single target as much. Conjurer are weaker in terms of damage, but they do have sustained power. In my opinion, I really don't like these ones because in order for them to get their talent to work, they have to have not dealt any damage on a single turn. Some HP recovery, attack boost, and damage res. So in my opinion, I really don't like that because I can always imagine once I get in close, I'm always going to be dealing damage. So that's why I really prefer having sorcerers, even though that they do have a HP condition in place. So if you do have SP sorcerers, I do really recommend just using them as your magic soldiers. Granted that you do need to be healthy, it's at least better than the sorcerers at their base form. They still will output more damage compared to the Conjurer. Now with the best weapon, it includes the Miracle Staff for AoEs. I would even say Vile Weaver as well, to apply a bunch of debuff. Then you have Red Moon, which has a ton of int alongside some HP. Then Blue Moon, which is the same, instead of HP, it has magic defense. The armor that you want will be the Regalia. At 100% HP, you have a 100% chance to not be critted, which is honestly pretty big. It is really huge. But you still have the option of choosing Tenules to have a 30% chance to dispel and apply a debuff, or you can use the Reaper's Nucleus. I would say the Reaper's Nucleus is like a little bit worse since you don't have like any extra HP that the first two does, but you still have a good chance of surviving a single target attack. It's just that if you get AoE hit, then you might be screwed. Speaking of which, the Ritual of Confusion to help better survive against AoEs. I'd say that these are the best choices that you can use. The next line best of choices would be Nebulous Robe and then Galaxy Cloak. The best headwear for her is Tenuos, my all-time favorite, especially with summons, because you do have a chance to give them a mobility increase, so that can be quite huge for them. I would say more support options that you can use include Demon Hat to be immune to silence, Earmuffs for damage res, Electric Headwear for displacement immunity. For damage, you have Star Crown. Granted that it can be an issue because you will need someone to provide some healing for the buff. And then you have Glory for survival. And then your last best bet would be Dark Crown for the stats, if you don't have any of the following. Her best accessory will be Creeping Tide. Man, I wish I had more of these, because by attacking, you have a 70% chance to lower magic defense, so that way, her summon can follow up to deal more damage. Or you can use Holy Ring to always be immune to silence. It will save you time and time again, so that way, she can always function. These two are her best in slot in my opinion. More options include stuff like the Planet Spear. In PvP, it disables accessory, while in PvE, it increases the enemy's damage taken. You have Dimensional Jewel for a skill cooldown, and Radar's Rose to dispel buffs. Then your next line of choice include Star Earring, Eye of Beholder, and Drop Near. I can't really recommend these, but if you really have to, then just use them for the int increase. So I would really advise trying to get the first line of two choices that you see right here to replace them. As for enchants, Full Moon for the stats up, Breeze for mobility, Magic for damage, especially for AoEs, then Blazing Sun for some incredible damage. The reason why you can even use this on her is because her Aquarius form gives her 100% crit rate. Alright, so now that you guys have a good idea on how to build your Lucy, let's go right on ahead to her first awakening stage. Alright, so for this stage, you're going to be up against Nymph, Florentia, and then Curtis. So the skills that you're going to want are single target attacks, because there is going to be a neat trick that you can do to pretty much tease the fight. And also make sure to bring the onesie. It's going to be very necessary for it. And then with the soldiers, I would highly recommend using Wild Expedition or the Sky Archers, seeing as they're your best ones. And the enemies that you're going to be facing are going to have lower defense, so you're just going to be doing way more damage. However, if you don't have them up, then I would just use Sorceress or Conjure. However, those sources are going to be the best magic soldier for damage. So what we're going to do is click on the onesie and click on the pink icon here. What this does is summon Ares, and this thing has an AoE skill. This will allow Lucy to act again, so just go ahead and do whatever, run away with her, or simply just use the AoE or single target if you have the scepter. Whatever you think that you can get away with, right? But however, let's say that I want to play this extremely safe. I'm just going to go ahead and run away with Lucy. I'm not going to even go ahead and get closer to her to try to attack, because Nip does have an AoE skill. And if your Lucy is very weak, you might get one shot. So let's say that I'm very scared about that, right? So let's go ahead and run away with Lucy. And then what I'm going to have to summon do is go ahead and just AoE here. We're not going to line ourselves up with Lucy, but rather just go right here. Actually, that may still be a lineup right there, so let's go ahead and get a bit further and then use the AoE skill here. What this does will apply a thing called Star. That way we go ahead and move up with Lucy, and it's perfect enough so that way we can attack with a single target skill. So let's go ahead and do this. And the thing about Florentia is that she's ultimately harmless, so you can be very aggressive towards her. She's just gonna run up to you, doesn't matter. So seeing that we still have the AoE skill here, let's just go ahead and attack with her. Like I said, Florentia here is ultimately harmless, so let's go ahead and do whatever you can on her. You can be really aggressive. However, Curtis is what we really want to watch out for. So we just want to watch out for the AoE here, just don't get too close to him. So let's go ahead and turn on Danger Zone to keep track, and to be found like right here. Curtis does apply a thing where if you attack him, he takes less damage. It is totally unavoidable, but however, with everything you have, that should be no problem at all. So let's go ahead and have the summon go ahead and do an AoE skill here. Do some damage. Nice, we got the silence. We're gonna go ahead and be a bit extra here and just go like summon the single target summon. I don't think you really have to do this, but let's just say that if we want to, go ahead and back up, make good use of the extended range, and use Holy Word to deal even more damage. So that way we can have the summon take out the Curtis summon. If you didn't do exactly what I did, then the summon should take out him anyways, or just wait for another turn or something. But at the end, it doesn't really matter, as long as you can get rid of him. So yeah, just like with Urza, I was honestly really contemplating on even doing this because you have the whole summon part thing, but as tradition as how I like to do this, I always show it off. Plus, there may be some people who don't really truly understand how to use Lucy, so I thought it'd be best to include this. So there you go for you people out there. Now onto your 3C. The passive on it, when this unit and its celestial spirit attacks enemies with star and moon, their damage increases. What's weird about this is that it doesn't include the additional part where if the enemy has both, then it's doubled to 30%. So yeah, I'm not sure what happened right there. But anyways though, this AoE hits enemies and applies moon. When possessing any celestial spirit magic, you will lose it after casting the skill. That then reduces the skill cooldown of this skill in the celestial spirit skill by 3. So what it does is that it should replace the actual skill after using the onesie, like when you summon things. So just basically after using the skill, you'll have the ability for the onesie to summon something else or transform. But yeah, this 3C does just like tons of damage. You hit enemies really hard, then applies moon for fixed damage. And if there's a spirit on the field, then they can do whatever it is that they can do, right? So we'll definitely see more of that during the showcase. Alright, so with the second awakening stage, they're always very much easier compared to the first one, so basically anybody could do it, even if your own character is not as strong. Just as long as you can play very smart, then anyone can do it. Especially what helps is that the AI are pretty dumb. So with all that being said, let's go right on into her showcase. Alright, so now that we're here, let's go over just what Lucy is capable of in her gameplay. For talent, her int is boosted. When she and her spirit use an AoE skill, it can be selected on any block within the skill range, and when dealing damage with it, it applies star, but when attacking in battle, it applies moon. Whenever Lucy or the spirit are attacked by enemies with those, then their stats are increased. What star does is that both can target that enemy within 6 blocks. Moon deals fixed damage even to those around them, which both last 2 turns. When using any AoEs, it can be used anywhere within the skill range, which is pretty neat, so you have a lot of control, so that means your positioning can be more optimized. So dealing damage with it applies star. If Lucy or the spirit is within 6 blocks, they can target that enemy. So you can use an AoE on them far away, and it can be paired really well with the 2C being able to ignore guard. What it'll also do is apply moon as well, which is fixed damage. So it's great for crowd control. However, the 1C is what we really want to take a look at because the whole thing about Lucy is being able to do combo attacks alongside her summons. So she can choose a skill and the cooldown will be dependent on it, and only one different spirit can exist. You have 3 different choices: Aquarius, Loki, and Ares. Afterwards, she can act again with the remaining mobility. Now this last part right here may be confusing because they, for some reason, changed the description in battle. So what she does with this skill is heavily influenced by her classes. It's kind of weird. So I want to show this off first because it will confuse some people. If it's her first and second class, you can still summon, but you don't inherit the skill or transformation afterwards. But you can summon Aquarius. In her final class, she is able to transform and inherit a new 1C skill. But when you use Aquarius, it doesn't spawn. I don't know why it doesn't spawn, but I figured that I would show this off first, because like I said, it can be confusing for some people. So by selecting her 1C, you have 3 different choices. By looking at the middle one, you can summon Loki and inherit the Leo form. When she and the spirit attacks an enemy with Moon, they attack first and deal more damage. After transforming, both will show a new buff icon, basically revealing the new form that you selected. What you also get is a new 1C skill, corresponded by the spirit. It's a single target that dispels 3 buffs, and attacking an enemy with Moon deals damage to the hero. Also a reminder that the spirit has that same skill, as well as her talent. It does seem like extra effort seeing as Lucy has to go first right after summoning, so it might be a little bit annoying, but if you have her 3C, it also applies Moon, so that way it's easier for Lucy to apply it, and that way her spirit can snipe someone out. And these spirits are pretty strong. The skill at the bottom summons Ares, and you will inherit the Ares form. When both deals damage, they can apply a powerful debuff. Powerful indeed, because the skill that you get is an AoE that applies Wool Bomb, which is nothing to deal fixed damage. I don't know why it's a copy and paste of Moon, but I guess you can deal fixed damage twice. Ignoring that, it also silences male heroes. A reminder again, the spirit has the same skill and talent as her, making sure that you guys remember that. At last, her final 1C skill to show off, Aquarius, which gives her and the spirit 100% crit rate and deals more damage to enemies in water. When moving through water swamps depth terrain, they can move 1 extra blocks. Afterwards, she can act again with 2 extra mobility. So by transforming, she doesn't summon anything, besides if you have her in either of her first or second class, which I feel like that she should've. And so what it does is that it puts enemies in water and teleports them toward the center of the selected block. Now this is a skill that I really don't use too much, but I'm not really saying it's bad, since you are able to deal a great amount of damage. You can group up enemies and the debuff can slow them down. But the reason why I don't really use this, and some of you guys might not really use it as much as well, is because the whole point of using Lucy is being able to pull off combination attacks with her spirits. So I find it just really weird that she doesn't summon anything, but I guess in exchange, she deals more damage and have better mobility. Sometimes even using her 1C can be a problem since she has to approach and her summon are quite slow. Last thing to point out is immediately after using the 1C attack skill, it'll immediately change into the summon skill. And if you happen to use the same summon that's already on the field, what it'll do is teleport it next to her and that spirit skill will be refreshed. So definitely they're not a one and done type of situation. Finally, the last thing to show off is her 3C, which is key to her functionality as well as her summons. The passive, when Lucy or her spirits attacks an enemy with Star and Moon, their damage increases. It's an AoE that applies Moon that makes her lose her 1C attack skill, but it will reduce the 3C and the skill of the spirit by 3. So with the 1C, it'll be the attack skill that'll reset. So I'm gonna let you guys watch what it all looks like. So after using the 3C, you'll hear the clock sound effect telling you that her 3C cooldown is reduced, and also her 1C is reverted back into being able to summon another spirit. With that, enemies are inflicted with Sun since we damage them with an AoE, and there's Moon because that's what the 3C does. Just make sure that you do always use the summon skill first before using that skill, otherwise you won't get the cooldown. It is quite easy to overlook that. When it comes to playing Lucy, doing a combination attack with her spirit is how you should be using her. I think you could use her in any what way. That's what's great about doing these combo attacks. So my favorite thing to do is, since I do love AoEs, what I like to do is summon her AoE spirit, Ares. Then what I like to do with Lucy is use her 3C to apply Moon for crowd control situation since it's fixed damage. And so that way it does set up for the spirit to do the same thing as well. and at the same time it applies Sun, so that way it helps boost the spirit too. And so that way the spirit can use its own AoE to deal fixed damage and do its debuff shenanigans, plus the fixed damage too, which is gonna look crazy. Bonus points on the silence too. If I want to use Loki, I would pretty much be doing the same thing. Use the 3C since its range is larger than her other ones, plus Moon being applied, so you got that fixed damage and plus Sun for range. So that way when I use the Loki spirit, as long as I'm within 6 blocks of whatever target that I can hit, the spirit can snipe them out, and they are quite powerful. And thanks to Moon being applied, you should have a strong chance to get rid of them, since it deals damage directly to the hero. That's why we always want to use the 3C, since you are killing 2 birds with 1 stone. 3 actually if you can get rid of them. Just be very aware that it does not ignore guard. When it comes to Aquarius, I myself forget about the extra mobility it provides, so it can be just great to reach an opponent and deal some massive amount of damage. If her summons are already there, then that's a plus. If Lucy is still alive by then, she can be your magic assassin with the 2C, or you can just simply whip out another AoE. Just that the major factor in all of this is making sure that you can spam with the 3C all the time. You're getting a 2-for-1 special right there, because you're applying Sun for the extra range, and then you have Moon for fixed damage so that the spirits can follow up and activate all of that. If Lucy is still alive the next turn, then she can also make good use of that as well. Amazing follow-up situation. But Lucy is going to be very overwhelming once she is able to get in. If you aren't using the 3C right, then the only thing that you will suffer is an extremely long cooldown. So in short, make sure to use the 1C summon skill. Just make sure that you always use it right before using the 3C. So it always lead into that. And so that way, when you're using the 3C, it equals massive profits. So overall, Lucy is a very complicated character to understand. Once you are able to figure her out, she's mechanically a very strong character, and it might baffle you guys that she's arguably better than Urza. So let's start talking positives. In my opinion, I think Lucy is way better since Urza is inconsistent as a DPS. But the thing about her is that she's very straightforward, very easy to use. Unlike Lucy. Lucy is gamers' worst nightmare. Reading. You take one good look at her 1C, and it's immediately a turn-off. And then when you go to use said 1C, you realize that you gotta learn like basically 3 new characters. And then the realization that they are essential to do a combo attack, that's where the situation might get even more confusing. Because the Lucy and the Spirit lead into each other. So yeah, you are going to be confused for a while. But it's very rewarding once you figure it all out, because the potential with her is insane. Being able to snipe far away, do some crowd control with the AoEs, debuffs, damage and all that stuff, it is massive than you realize. And the summons are very potent as well. Like, they don't deal like underwhelming numbers. Like, I'm surprised that Loki is able to deal like over 20-30k damage. That's like kind of on par with the unicorn summon from Bright Summoner. So yeah, Lucy is going to be a very overwhelming character to deal with and use. She's absolutely fantastic. The bad part about Lucy is that her summon does suck sometimes. And the main issue with it is their mobility. It's awful. It's the reason why I use Tenuos on her, to have that possibility of getting something done right there and there. It's not like Bright Summoner's Unicorn, who also benefits from her equip, so her enchants do carry over to the summon. For Lucy's spirits, they need like a mobility buff to get anywhere. You can argue that it's the same situation for Lucy, since their tools doesn't really get them anywhere. I guess you could say that Aquarius helps a little with that, but it too has a problem that it doesn't summon anything in exchange for damage. It actually does it for her first and second classes, but you won't inherit the form. It's the opposite way for the final class, but my point still stands. Just being able to approach with Lucy is going to be very difficult, on top of trying to understand how she works. In PvE, you're not really gonna notice that, but in PvP, it really is. But like I said before, once she gets in, the damage that she will cause is going to be catastrophic. Alright, so that was Lucy's showcase. In PvE, she's great, even though her magic soldiers isn't all too fantastic. Her sources is going to be her strongest one, but they are really inconsistent. So if you can't get them to SP form, I would really strongly recommend it if you really want to main Lucy. I would say that she will honestly be your strongest DPS, magic DPS in your team. I do recommend summoning her airy spirit often so that you get that extra range. In PvP, she is absolutely insane. Mobility will be a major issue, but once she's in, she's gonna cause some havoc. I do recommend getting some practice with her so that you get a good feeling on what she's like. Do I recommend Lucy? Nah, not really. She can just be replaced by literally any DPS that you have on you. But if you do get Lucy, she's honestly fantastic to use. I would say like the only reason why you would get her right now is if you're a Fairy Tail fan. She's just honestly a really good character, or probably like the major reason why people summon on collabs is that they may never come back. Maybe like a small chance that they could. So yeah, the choice is up to you. I'm not gonna really tell you, oh, summon this and that. Maybe for some characters, but I rarely do that. And so that's all I got for you guys. If you guys did enjoy this video, feel free to like and subscribe want to see more, and feel free to let me know down in the comments how you guys feel about Lucy, or if there was any more that I may have not known about her. With all that said, hope that you guys have a good rest of your day and take care. So yeah, thanks for watching. Your fellow Z.